Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. It means we're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Half the work week just about in the rearview mirror here on a short work week, and we're getting closer and closer and closer to some regional baseball. Koki Riley's going to be along in 15 minutes to chat about that, and we got tons to do over the next 2 hours. Jacob Beck, Cassie Spazali back there on the ones and twos and fired up. You're with us. It's What If Wednesday. If you're in the Bayou Ford chat, fire those along. Got a couple of those on Twitter thus far. Are the Saints the worst team in the NFL? That was surmised by one power ranking. We'll give that a little bit of thoughts at 2 o'clock, straight up 2 o'clock, so an hour from right now. I'll give you my thoughts on LSU's pitching this weekend, how I would line it up, and what I think the best way to go about things is. Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks. Health was updated from Destin. And we're going to one more time go back to our SEC baseball power rankings and just see how ridiculous my first power rankings were after just 3 games of baseball had been played. We'll do all that over the course of the next 2 hours. Lock us in. We'll start the same way we do every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
We try to keep things very local on this station. We're told, play the hits, talk about LSU, talk about the baseball team, talk about the basketball team, football team recruiting, talk about the Saints, talk about the SEC. We don't spend a lot of time talking about the Knicks on this channel. Don't spend a ton of time worrying about how the San Diego Padres rotation is looking. And so that does keep us between the buoys here, but we do cover a myriad of topics. And I have no problem giving you my confidence level in discussing things that we talk about. Like when we talk about what goes on the field at the box this weekend, I'm like a 9 out of 10 on confidence. That doesn't mean I'm right all the time. It just means I'm coming from a background of information. I'm watching. I feel like I have a good handle on what's going on. I feel comfortable all the time discussing what goes on the baseball field. We start diving into the nuances of Kai Harley kicking around the Saints salary cap. I'm closer to a 3. I understand the concepts that we're working within, how exactly those numbers work. I'm not here to tell you I'm an expert on that. That's why we go get Ross Jackson, we go get Luke, we go get Sharif. They tell you how things are going, okay? When it comes to the future of college football, I'm like a 6. I have a sense of where this boat is going. Do I know how fast it's moving? Do I know exactly how it's going to get there? But I follow along and I try to give you an informed opinion or a passionate opinion, depending on what the news of the day is. And right now, there are college football coaches from the SEC and administrators from the SEC walking around Destin hotels talking to media members. And the setting to me appears to be, and Hester will talk about this when he comes back and when he jumps on the morning show, but the coaches are a little more chatty in Destin than they are when you get them in a Monday press conference, when you get them on a Wednesday conference call. They're willing to put on the button-down Hawaiian shirt and kick back and chat with somebody. Maybe there's a cocktail involved. And they're starting to talk a little bit this week, and we're getting a sense of what's going on with the future of college football scheduling. And I will tell you that as I digest this information from afar, it's starting to really come into focus for me. We are getting very close to phasing out these completely useless non-conference games. We are getting very close to the SEC and the Big Ten coming to an agreement where they play each other and where both teams play both leagues play 9 conference games, and they take control of the college football season. It was never a doubt that was going to happen. He who has the gold makes the rules. The SEC, the Big Ten have all the gold. The ACC and the Big 12 have no gold. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to make the rules. It's just a matter of what was going to force them to go do that. And now we have our answer. The answer is they have to find $20 million in the budget to give the players. So what does that mean? They have to go find more revenue. And the only way to get easy revenue is to make the TV deals grow. And the only way to make the TV deals grow is to put on a more compelling product. And that's where this is headed. Because these schools these conferences want to take control of this expanded playoff. The expanded playoff is coming because everybody wants the money. And so the Big Ten's sitting here going, well, we play 9 league games and you play 8. And if we're going to have a committee that comes in and determines who's getting in this playoff, and we are putting all of our schools at a greater risk for taking a loss than you are, so you have a better chance to get more teams in the playoff, so you have a chance to get a bigger piece of that revenue pie, then we're not agreeing to that. So the Big Ten is sitting here looking at the SEC going, you need to get in line and get a 9th game. And then the SEC is coming back and they're going, well, we're kind of okay at 8 right now, but we'd like to guarantee 4 spots in this new expanded 16-team playoff. And in doing so, we're going to create more games. We're going to have play-in games to get in the playoff. Play-ins for the playoff. Take this right out of Major League Baseball. So what the SEC is saying, they're going to have the first seed and the second seed from the regular season play each other for the championship, like we've always done. Then we're going to have the third seed play the 6th seed and the 4th seed play the 5th seed. And the winner of those 2 games gets in the playoff. And now we've guaranteed our 4 playoff teams, the 1, 2, and then the winner of 3-6 and the winner of 4-5. Okay, well, let me talk about that in a second. But the Big Ten's sitting back going, we're not agreeing to this deal until you say you're going to 9 conference games. And so what I think is going to happen is that that's going to work. I think the SEC is going to go to the 9th conference game. I think the SEC is going to, in addition to that 9th conference game, take on a contract to play a Big Ten school every year, and the SEC is going to play the Big Ten every year. Brian Kelly has said that the SEC coaches want that to happen. And you're going to have enough room in the playoff to where everybody feels comfortable taking on 10 opponents that are within the SEC and the Big Ten. Now, whether Clemson and South Carolina want to keep playing, and Florida State want to keep playing, and Kentucky and Louisville want to keep playing, and all that jazz is up to them. But I think this is where we're going. And I'm good with the last part there. I'm good with us going to 9 SEC games and a Big Ten game every year. That's 10 opponents. You sprinkle in 2 more, whatever the case may be, and that's the meat of your schedule, and we work off of that. What I have to go back to now in the course of this discussion is this ludicrous thing where you're playing 3 play-in games to get into playoff. You're playing 3 games to get into the 16-team playoff. Well, now we're playing the playoffs for 2 months, and you've got a bunch of, last year, that would have been some sort of entanglement of Missouri and LSU and Texas A&M and South Carolina trying to wrangle up who should be in the playoff. Guess what, gang? Bama lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, who stunk. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky, who stunk. South Carolina didn't win enough games. I don't need to just completely be rewarding every single SEC team that goes 8-4. That is not the point. I don't think at all you've devalued the regular season in college football when you go to 12. When you start immediately looping into the playoff, when you're into the playoff in the SEC, if you're the 6th seed in a 16-team league. You're not technically in the playoff yet with the Big Ten schools or the ACC champ, but you're now playing games where if you win, you can win the national championship. At 8-4, don't need it. I don't need that. The point of this awesome playoff was to have Clemson going to Austin last year, and to have Tennessee going to Ohio State, and to have Ohio State and Oregon playing, and to have Texas and Notre Dame play. Like, that was the point. The point was not to go fish out the 6th seed in the Big Ten or the SEC and have them tee it up in a huge playoff-style game in December. Y'all, I adore LSU more than you know. If they go 8-4, I don't necessarily need them beating down the door to go play the 3 seed in the SEC to get in the playoff. Like, I'll certainly watch, and I'll certainly do it with bated breath, and that's probably the point, because there'll be more money, because the television people know that I'll watch. But I don't think that's the best thing for the sport. Because at that point, I don't even have to tune in September and October. Y'all have listened to me. There are some people that want to go back to the BCS 1 and 2. You lose a game, you're toast. Michigan, Ohio State means everything to those two schools, as opposed to this past year where Ohio State lost and still won the national championship comfortably. There are some people that feel that way. I don't. I want to keep more teams involved, but there's a threshold there where it goes too far. And when we are playing 3 playoff games within the SEC to get into a 16-team playoff, we've lost the plot. And this is all coming down to this endless chase for cash. Money is part of sports. It's been that way my whole life. It hasn't been that way for all of your lives. If you're very much older than me, there was a time where it was a little bit more pure. That day is gone. It's got to be considered in everything. But we've got to keep our heads here. I understand, like I said yesterday, when Greg Sankey comes to the podium and starts talking, that he's not actually speaking about what he exactly thinks is best. He's only advocating for his league. And in doing this, the SEC coaches and commissioners and the Big Ten coaches and commissioner, they're advocating for a way to get more money to just do the best they can for their league, not the sport, not the fan. And at some point, somebody's got to step up and go, hey, hold it 1 second. We can do this a little bit more smartly, to use a non-word. I don't need 8-4 teams duking it out in December. I don't need to watch Iowa and Wisconsin battling it out in this. I don't need South Carolina and Auburn battling it out after they've lost 4 games. I just, that to me is a bridge too far. We got to find revenue. I get it. I like expanding the playoff to 12. I love the fact that they immediately recorrected and they're seeding things properly based on a committee. I believe the SEC deserves more spots and to not be treated as an equal with the ACC and the Big 12. There are things I believe that they're doing. But once you go this far, we're now not really doing this in the interest of competition. We're only doing it in the interest of money. And that's where you lose me. To be clear, you don't lose me as a fan. I'm going to watch no matter what. I'm not that offended. You lose me as someone who is analyzing the decision-making of these higher-ups. This is flawed. You're going down the wrong path. They would probably sit here and say, we have to go down the path because they're making us pay $20 million to the athletes. I would suggest maybe let's just find another way to do that. It's hard. It's hard discussions. If it was easy, they'd have this figured out in 15 minutes. But it's hard, and everybody's got to lobby for their best interest. We're getting a lot of that out of Destin. We'll try to run Jake down in the next couple of days and see kind of what the vibe is around that hotel. We're getting stories from sports writers and tweets from people that are there, but undoubtedly there are private conversations that are going on as well, and I'm curious if Jake's been involved in some of those and kind of what he feels like the push is going toward. That's our Genesis Opening Drive. We're brought to you here by Renaissance Homes and Pools on Wednesdays. We'll have Koki Riley talking LSU baseball when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Genesis offers a luxury experience at a reasonable price. That's why when I say Genesis, you should go, oh, luxury vehicle. But when you think luxury vehicle, you shouldn't automatically go, well, can't afford that. Start that process online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Bet you'll be surprised. And then, once you see what that looks like, go in. Their facility is first class. Their staff is first class. And the line of vehicles is absolutely first class. If you're looking for a sedan, they got you. Looking for an SUV for your family, they got you. Stylish, comfortable, modern, phenomenal line of vehicles at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You may not have been by, but if you're in the market for a vehicle in Baton Rouge, you're probably on Airline Highway. Make that one more stop across from Women's Hospital and go see my friends at Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Two o'clock start time for LSU and Little Rock from the box. 6:30 will be game 2. That'll be between the number 2 seed Dallas Baptist, the number 3 seed Rhode Island. Koki Riley will be there, covered it all for the Advocate. Good enough to give us a little bit of time on Wednesdays. Koki, how are you?
Doing pretty well. How's it going?
It's going well. Hoover, Alabama. Before we talk about LSU, I know you weren't there the whole time, but you were there for 3 days, I think. Crowds, energy, vibes with the single elimination new format. What was your takeaway from a little time in Hoover?
Yeah, I thought the A&M crowd was really good. It was like vintage LSU fans showing up at the SEC tournament in droves sort of crowd. Second game was a lot harder to tell because they didn't score a run. But it was a pretty packed house in, middle of the day. So it was a little more, I won't say lethargic, but quieter for sure. But the night game, in a big important game like that, with all the fans was really cool. And they've also made like a ton of upgrades to the park, a whole bunch of new seats. As you probably saw, there's the stands. Now you can sit in the outfield and right field. And I like the modernization of a SEC staple. And I have a soft spot for Hoover in that little park, but they've also really improved it this year, so that's good to see.
All right, first thing, LSU goes with Anderson and Ianson on Friday. What was your reaction to that? And then did you take Jay at face value in the press conference when he kind of gave the reasons why?
Yeah, I take, at least a few of those reasons. I think it's, I don't know how much it matters to have one guy or the other guy in your Friday game if you're already, guaranteed to host a regional. But at the same time, if you wanted to guarantee them both to throw, that was probably the best way to do it. And if you wanted to, tamp down their pitch counts, that was also a really smart way to do it. So, I mean, yes, they generally wanted to win the games over there, but it wasn't the end of the world. And what was more important was getting their top guys a little bit of work in before this upcoming weekend. So
then you saw on Saturday a trio of Newt, Shores, and Myers. What do you make of those guys now as you head into the games that really matter?
Newt's splitter is a really, really good pitch, and he does a good job of combining that with his fastball. I don't think he really has a plus breaking ball right now, but right now the fastball splitter combo is really, really working for him. And his command is just way better. He's living in the lower half of the zone. He's not missing up. He's been really, really good. And I know he gave up the one home run there, and he gave up another run in the fourth. But Ole Miss is a regional team. They could easily make a super regional, easily make it to Omaha, I should say. So that was a really impressive performance. And again, his command has just been so much better lately. And then with Chase, the guy was up to 102, and some of the mechanical adjustments he's made have made him just more effective. I think guys aren't really seeing the ball as well against him as they were at the beginning of the year. The command is still a bit of an issue. He had 3 walks the other day, but he's not getting hit that hard as much. So I think that's a good sign if you're LSU. And then for Jacob Myers, that was by far his best performance of the year. He was electric, fastball, 100 with a ride. He has a good little splinter too, slider. When he's on, he might have the best stuff on the staff, which kind of sounds ridiculous, but again, it's like the writing fastball at 100 miles an hour. It's absurd. And if he can command any of it, that's the thing, right? When he's commanding the ball, he's as unhittable as anyone.
And then you got the bats that did not score a run. We've talked about it for a month. Like, I don't really know what to say. Sometimes they're great, usually at home. Sometimes they're not, usually on the road. They'll be at home for 2 weeks. What's your concern level on the offense?
It has to be there, right? 2 hits in 15 innings, it's just not going to cut it in any situation. And I think you kind of have to go. You kind of go like a man by man basis and see why they may be struggling more than they should. And I think Jared Jones turned things around a little bit more in conference play towards the second half, but he still wasn't quite the superstar that you wanted to see against SEC competition. And then Stephen Milam has taken a clear step back offensively this season. And when little stuff like that starts happening, and you really have to lean into a freshman in Derek Carriel, for example, or Danny Dickinson, who's taken a half step back as the season has gone along offensively, like once those little things start adding up, now you're kind of find yourself in the situation you're at right now, where Ethan Fry becomes like your most valuable hitter. And Ethan Fry's been excellent for them, especially against left-handed pitching. And Jake Brown's been very good against right-handed pitching. But it's like platoon guys are like these platoon split guys are like running your offense. That's not a good sign. You need the stars to step up and play like stars, and they haven't necessarily had that in a lot of these sort of matchups.
SEC has become kind of the big leagues. They've just got more talent than everybody. Is there a chance that over the next 2 weeks, not playing an SEC team unless you play Kentucky, that doesn't look like it did against SEC teams?
There's definitely a chance, but I don't want to poo-poo Clemson too much. They're a really good team. Cam Canarell is a really good player. They got, they could come in here and win the series. It's not impossible. I mean, LSU hasn't lost the series at home this year. And then they face some pretty darn talented teams that are probably more talented than Clemson is. But, if they face Kentucky, that means Kentucky has really figured something out with all these close losses, right? So that could be really dangerous if that happens for LSU. But I think LSU is as much of a favorite as anyone in the country to get to Omaha, and it has very little to do with them, and it has more to do with the competition and the fact that they have pretty easily, I'd say by far the easiest regional out of all the not just the top 8 seeds, but of all the top 16. So I think because of that, now you're looking at a situation where they're at a really, really good spot, even with these offensive issues, because again, the schedule just broke their way this year.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. The other reason LSU is a big prohibitive favorite is because of Anderson and Ianson. How do you think they're deployed this weekend?
Yeah, I think Anderson's going to pitch on Friday. I don't know for sure. That's just because, I don't know. Whoever they throw, it doesn't really totally matter. They're going to throw one of them in that first game. So, any idea of why don't we just throw Jaden Newt instead? I don't think that's really going to happen at all. But it's going to be one of those two guys for sure. And and I think that's kind of important because you don't want them to be off schedule heading into the super regional. You'd rather not have those guys pitch on short rest heading into a super. And if you throw one of them on Friday and the other one on Saturday, then they'll be on track to be ready for the super, even if it's a Thursday to Saturday. And then you only have one extra less day of rest, which is fine. But if you say you hold these guys for Saturday and Sunday, now if you end up in a Thursday to Saturday or even a Friday to Sunday, the guys could be on short rest when you didn't really need to do that in the first place. So, plus the team has pitching depth. So because of that, it would make me feel even more comfortable with doing what they're probably going to do here.
We shall find out probably about 1 o'clock on Friday who Jay Johnson decides to throw out there in this game on Friday. Koki, last one here. Appreciate a little bit of your time. Zach Cowan and Kason Evans, how do you think they are used here? Neither one pitched in Hoover.
I wouldn't be surprised at all that if Evans starts the third game, and I don't know. I just sort of figure that I don't think they'd give up on him or anything. I think they want to give him and Cowan as much rest as possible because they used them so heavily during the regular season. And I don't think that the usage is going to change much with Zach. I think he's probably going to be the closer for them. And with Evans, he's kind of like in this hybrid role at the moment, especially with Jaden New's recent ascension. But I could definitely see them starting him. I mean, he's already proven that he can get these DBU hitters out. He did it in in Arlington. So it should be really interesting how they deploy those two guys. But they're still their two best relievers. I know Shorters look a little bit better, and Jacob Myers, what he's on, and all that sort of stuff. But those two guys are still their best relievers, and I'm really curious to see how they can continue their success heading into the regional.
Koki, we'll see you at the box this weekend. Should be a fun one. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
He's Koki Riley, LSU beat reporter over at The Advocate, covering the LSU baseball squad. I've now looked over all three teams in this regional pretty extensively. Got a feel for what they do well, what their issues may be, handedness, pitching matchups, pitching plans. And I feel pretty good about kind of mapping out how I think this should go over the weekend. I'll be very clear. The regional very, very, very rarely goes the way you would like it to go. I'll tell you, look, in 2023 at home, you send Ty Floyd out there to start the second game, and then the rains come. So you got to go to Thatcher Hurd. You're playing Oregon State, and you're in a tie game late, and you send Aaron Nola out there in a game against Sam Houston State in 2013, and they immediately put up a 5 spot in the first inning. Christian Ibarra makes 2 errors. It just weird stuff happens in regionals. So I'm going to tell you what my pitching plan would be at 2 o'clock. But in telling you that, I'm already revealing I've watched enough of these things. It almost never goes according to plan. Almost never. So we'll see how things go starting on Friday, but I'll give you kind of my 2 cents on it at the top of hour number 2. When we come back, we'll play some What If Wednesday that involve LSU and Clemson maybe in 2 weeks, definitely Labor Day weekend. What do I think about that? We'll do it all next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. It doesn't have to be a huge, big renovation with One Bath and Closets. They can do that. It doesn't have to be. If you're thinking that sounds too invasive, that sounds too expensive for me right now, what about something simple? Do you ever use your bathtub? If you don't use it and it's dingy, maybe a little bit old, unsightly, shower curtains stained, just ditch it. Get rid of the bathtub. Put in a walk-in shower. It changes the look of your bathroom, changes the functionality of your bathroom, add a little value to your home. Just make you smile knowing you got a brand new clean shower there instead of an old dingy tub. Get the process started today by calling David Duvall or going to the website, onebathandclosets.com. You can see pictures of their awesome work. You can see the testimonials. You get that consultation, and they have financing options available. 0% up to 18 months. That's same as cash. They'll do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. Find them online at onebathandclosets.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. You've been thinking for years about getting that pool of your dreams. That's been a life goal of yours. It's time to make it happen. Call my guy, Joey Blanchard, and get that process started with Renaissance Homes and Pools. Joey has done it for dozens of people in and around the Baton Rouge area. And the best thing is you're thinking, well, it's already almost June. It's going to be too late. this process can move along pretty quickly. Now, weather's always an issue, so I can't tell you exactly how long it's going to take to put in your pool because I don't know what your pool is going to look like. But 6 to 8 weeks is always pretty reasonable for the folks at Renaissance Homes and Pools to get that thing done. You're talking about having that thing finished up into July. You got August and September to be in it. Start the process today at builtbyrenaissance.com or by calling Joey directly at 225-252-7745. Joey's the owner of the company, and he's going to be with you every step of the way. He will sit down at the computer with the software to design everything. And the software is incredible, y'all. The amount of detail that can go into this is truly astounding. You can put in the outdoor kitchen with it. If you are an adult family that's got no more kids, you want a cocktail pool, great. If you put in a pool that's designed for the family and the kids, grandkids, that's fantastic. You want one that's designed for hanging out and getting a little bit of sun, you do that as well. It's all there at Renaissance Homes and Pools. Give Joey a call, 225-252-7745, or go to builtbyrenaissance.com. That's builtbyrenaissance.com. All right, we got lots to do here over the next 90 minutes. It starts with What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
Well, okay. I'm reading the first one here.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. What if Myers Palmer hunts 2-year-old son?
He's three.
Three-year-old son tried the 999 challenge. Could he outperform me?
Well, wow. We talked about this on the show yesterday when you were not here. I got updates from Wrigley. For those who are not familiar with the 999 challenge, that's 9 hot dogs, 9 beers in 9 innings. Beck, just a miserable failure. One of the most pathetic performances I've ever seen on record.
Hi.
Look, Myers doesn't love hot dogs, and he's still not quite there with the beers yet. But if we were going chicken nuggets, chicken tender orders, lemonade waters in 9 innings, he wipes the floor with you.
Okay.
I'll give you could beat Keller. He's 11 weeks old, and he would probably struggle with the 9 bottles in 9 innings. But Myers Palmer, over the chicken tenders and lemonades, he crushes.
Okay, look, there was no way I could do it. The game went by so fast. The Cubs,
Pitch clock.
The Cubs, for some reason, couldn't get a hit against the Rockies, the worst team in Major League Baseball.
History, by the way.
In history, their start, one of the worst starts in history.
It is the worst start in history now because of last night.
Yes. And the Cubs simply just could not get a hit. Jameson Taillon had a perfect game going into the 5th inning. There was no chance there was no way I could have 9 hot dogs and 9 beers in 2 hours, hon. It was literally impossible.
Well, I thought your performance was poor.
I had 6 beers and 5 hot dogs in 2 hours. I felt horrible.
Oh, man. It sounds fun until you get in there and do it.
It's not. The hot dogs, here's the thing. The hot dogs,
they're not that great at Wrigley.
Well, okay.
For a city that prides itself on dogs,
they
are
were
mediocre.
fine, but the problem is the bun. Like I could eat 9 hot dogs. Just the wiener, I could eat 9. But the hot dog and the bun, with all that and the beer, it was just not. Also, of course, it really put me in a financial bind.
Yes,
because I'm getting
it's a little pricey.
I'm getting the tall beer, so it's basically 2 and 1. It was like 20 ounces, and it was like $20 a pop.
Go Cubs, huh?
Yeah.
Great day at Wrigley.
Really good. I took about a 2-hour nap after that game.
Sure you did.
And I was okay after that. But other than that, yeah, it was not a successful challenge. All right, next one. What if Butch Thompson leaves Auburn for Mississippi State?
Butch has done a great job at Auburn. He's been to Omaha twice, I believe, and their national seat this year. He was a pitching coach at State under John Cohen, who hired him at Auburn. Obviously, you're going to a place that has a richer tradition in baseball. Facility-wise, Auburn is really anteed up, but Mississippi State's is the better facility. It's really a question of NIL and comfort. Do you want to leave and go take the other job? I think they'll talk to him. I don't know if he would jump. If he took that job, I think he would do a good job. He's done a great job at Auburn.
All right, next one here. What if you had to choose one? LSU beats Clemson in the Super Regionals, and they make it to Omaha, of course, with that. Or LSU beats Clemson to start the football season. One or the other. What's your choice?
So I got this on Twitter, and a buddy texted me this when the bracket came out. And I gave this significant thought. I know that football's a bigger deal, and I know that the vast majority of this fan base cares far more about football than baseball. I also know that y'all just assume that I would immediately jump to the baseball side of this because I'm most passionate about baseball. But I gave it like real thought, and here's where I landed on it. If you lose to Clemson in the Super, your season's over. Anderson and Ianson and Jared Jones are gone, and it's restarting again. And you've already earned a national seed, and at that point, you're on the doorstep of Omaha in a season where I don't see a juggernaut. If you lose to Clemson in football, you go to week 2. Now, it's a bad deal. I got it. It's a bad deal. And if you beat them in football, it's a huge deal, but you can still fall on your face in the SEC schedule. I'm more wired to take the thing that's more controllable. And at this point, I can control the fact that LSU baseball is going to the top 8 in Omaha. And LSU football still got a chance. So I'm going to take the baseball, and I promise I did put a lot of thought into that. Is that a reasonable thing to say?
Yeah, it is.
It's bad if LSU loses to Clemson at Labor Day weekend. It's a bad deal. But you can recover.
Yeah, if LSU loses to Clemson in football and we've lost, what is that? Will it be 5?
They're going to be
openers?
underdogs when they get there.
Yeah. But it's just the
6 openers in a row they lose.
Yeah, 6 in a row is just going to be one of those things that
They will not have won since Joe Burrow beat some sort of Northwestern State or something.
Oh, yeah. It was Northwestern State, I think. Yeah. All right, moving on. What if LSU is down 2 runs Saturday night and Ianson,
so that's the winner's bracket
or
game,
Anderson is done after 7? Who do you bring in, considering you might need to win 3 games in the next 2 days if you lose this one?
That spot is probably... Obviously, I don't know who pitched on Friday, but I'm thinking some sort of Jacob Myers, or I think that's probably where I settle. I mean, it's not Cowan, it's not Evans, down 2. You're going to need those guys because those guys Cowan and Evans could conceivably throw 6 innings at a time in those 3 games that you still have to win, assuming they didn't pitch on Friday. So I need somebody who I feel like can hold it, may not give me as much length, but isn't one of the top 2 relievers. So Myers comes to mind. I think that's just the guy that I lean on there. I think that's probably the answer that I have. I'm going to give you my pitching plans in full at 2 o'clock in 15 minutes, but that's probably where I am on that one right now. All
right, last one real quick. This one, I got another one from my wife on. I ask her every week to send me a what
Wow.
if. She never does because she just always thinks that
she has a job and like a real life to live.
Well, yeah, and also
of humoring this goofy show.
Yeah, and then also, of course, the trauma of what happened for the first one.
Therapists are just raking in bucks by the truckload, thanks to your wife earlier.
All right, here it is, and this is a what if. So let's just play into it because obviously this isn't realistic. But what if Baton Rouge had a professional baseball team?
Okay,
where would the field/stadium be, and what would the team be called?
It'd be called the Rougarou. They'd play at Goldsby.
There you go. She also said, I quote, "I don't know. I think it's weeks." But that was what she gave me.
Oh, God. Just we don't need any more stadiums. We struggle with traffic here as it is.
That would be tough.
So trying to find a spot to put a baseball park that was major league size would be tough. I guess the answer is probably where the LSU golf course is.
Yeah, which is where they're
going to put the basketball arena and deal with the multi-parking and the campus parking and just try to put it there. But you're going to have a lot of double dips there with LSU playing in April and May, and theoretically June. And then football season, you got to, LSU football. That sounds terrible too. So my idea sucks. But we can't support that. We don't quite have enough folks to do it. But I'm kind of glad that we don't have a pro baseball team because I already have one of those.
Yes, we do.
And I don't want to feel like a real traitor, even though some people suggest that I am because I don't pull for the Saints. But it is what it is. All right, let's talk about the Saints when we come back to close out hour number 1.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
the new NFL FPI, which is a ratings metric put together by ESPN, is out for the 2025 season. And the Eagles are the number one team in FPI, plus 5.5, meaning they're 5 points better than the average NFL team. Chiefs are second, Ravens third, Lions fourth. None of this completely surprising. You look at middle of the pack teams, Texans plus 0.9, Steelers plus 0.01, Cowboys right there on the negative side with the Dolphins. All that makes a lot of sense. When you look around at the NFC South, kind of look at where the Saints' competition comes in this metric, and you wouldn't imagine that a lot of teams in the NFC South are thought of too highly. The Buccaneers 14th in the NFL at plus 0.9. And then you see the Atlanta Falcons 26th, minus 2.7. The Panthers, they're terrible. They are 28th in this metric, minus 4 points below the middle of the pack. So where are the Saints? They're last. 32nd in the NFL, minus 5.2, below the Titans, below the Browns, below the Jets, below the Panthers, below the Giants. Dead last. This is truly a whole new world for New Orleans Saints fans of the last 20 years. And there's two ways to kind of look at it. One, it sucks that some folks with reasonable reputations think that your team is the worst team in the league. Like, that's a hard pill to swallow. Whether you are the most hardcore hoodat out there or just a casual, I'll turn it on Sunday after church, like, them telling you your team is the worst in the league is hard to swallow. And then there's another side of it that's like, I can compare this, like when LSU plays Clemson on Labor Day weekend, like, I won't be able to feel my legs in the third quarter of that game. I'll be so nervous because the stakes feel so high. And ultimately, that's what you want as a sports fan, right? You want to be sitting on the edge of your seat with high stakes for your team. But every once in a while, not a lot, every once in a while, you just sit back and go, okay, we're not there right now. Don't have to get my blood pressure up to an unreasonable level. I don't have to scream 50 profanities. I don't have to take a break after the game's over because something happened awful. I don't have to look at Twitter and see that a bunch of fans broke their televisions after a loss. You can just drop everything down a couple notches. And it's not fun to do. It doesn't happen very often in this state with LSU football. It never happened with the Saints over the course of 20 years with Breeze and right after that. And now we are back there. There will be very few that will suggest that, no, we don't have to go that far back. We're not that bad. But the reality is you probably are. But at the same time, like, okay, let's watch the build. Let's watch what they do without having to just pour blood, sweat, and tears every Sunday into trying to get that win. Just watch for the good, understand the bad is coming, and try to get some of these young guys to grow up. Try to see if your quarterback can take some steps forward. And man, there is nothing better than the come up and turning that corner. You saw it early on with the Saints. When Breeze and Bush and that crew, that part is as fun as anything in sports. My Cubs did it in 2015. They just went nuts in the second half, got into the playoffs, and just beat the brakes off the hated Cardinals. It was the most fun I have had watching a sporting event in pro sports. And you're probably a couple years from that. Hopefully 2, maybe 3. But you have to go through some garbage to get to that point. And the Saints haven't waded through this in a while. Even the quote-unquote bad Saints seasons, like 2 years ago, they were kind of like in the mix at the end. They say that the lows going through them make the highs more enjoyable. Like, how much did Alabama football fans really like those big October and November wins over the last 15 years? You knew they were coming. Your season was only 2 games long, and it had happened in January. I'm not saying that you don't want to be a part of that, but like there is something to the fact that just being incredibly at the top of the sport every single year takes a little bit of drama out of it. How much do you really enjoy it? I'll tell you, Cubs fans really enjoyed climbing the mountain. I'll tell you, Saints fans in 2009 really enjoyed climbing the mountain. And it feels like that because you go through the awful times. And unfortunately, like, you're in that right now. Had to fire a coach, had to move on from the quarterback, have to get rid of this salary cap disaster, and ESPN says you're the worst team in the sport. They may be right, they may be wrong. They're not that far wrong. The Saints aren't the fourth best team in the sport. So maybe there's something to maybe reducing expectations a little bit, watching for what could be, and hoping for that next time then your team rides that wave on the come up and turns the corner. Because that is one of the best feelings in sports. And the NFL is really, really good at allowing for that to happen. It feels like Washington just finally did it. It feels like we know the Lions just finally did it a couple of years ago. Like the Chiefs were not great for decades, and then they finally hit it with Mahomes. And you can go through a list of all these teams, all these franchises, the Bengals 5 years ago. Like, there's a time where it clicks, and you just kind of wait for that, and man, is it awesome. And I'm hopeful for that time again with the Saints, with the realization that you're going to have to wade through this a little bit, and maybe that just lowers the blood pressure on Sundays this coming fall. It's not fun to see your team listed last. I get that. But maybe it just gives you a little dose of perspective. We'll see. That's Saints talk for this Wednesday. We'll come back. How should LSU pitch this regional? I've got thoughts on it. I will tell you what those thoughts are after we pause for SportsCenter and get some national headlines.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, just great folks to work with. I know a lot of folks in the insurance game, and I know that a lot of them are wonderful agents, and I know that there are some that aren't. There are some that have some fairly unethical tendencies and that may leave you hanging because they sold you the cheapest policy when they really needed to sell you the best one. And I can promise you at the Highland Insurance Group, they're going to sell you the best one at the right price. They've got dozens of markets that are available to them. They can make sure you're placed appropriately from a premium perspective. But what they can also assure you is that when you have that loss, as unexpected as it may be, your business will keep performing because you'll be covered by that policy. Trust them as part of your business team from an insurance group. It's the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com. That's HighlandIG.com.